show is to provide you information the bought-off lamestream fake media is not going to touch. Look, you can join us every Sunday. It's free at DaveJanda.com for our radio show, Operation Freedom, which airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. All you have to do is go to DaveJanda.com, hit the upper right-hand corner, the Listen Live button. We're there for you, 2 to 5 Eastern. Great guests, analysis you're not going to get from the bought-off lamestream fake media. But in addition, we're also at DaveJanda.com, not just 2 to 5 on Sunday, but 24/7. At DaveJanda.com, we have a free public site where we upload information on a very regular basis. We also have our subscription service, 30 cents a day, I believe one of the biggest bangs for the buck in all the internet, where we have extra shows, the WTF Geopolitical Show, the Insider Insight Show, the Department of Advanced Research Show, our healthcare symposiums, our contributing editor sections, all available for our subscribers, plus all the archives of our podcast all the way back from the radio show to October of 2010 since its inception, and all the archives from our Insider Insight Show. All available at DaveJanda.com. I hope you'll join us. Plus, we obviously have this YouTube channel, the only authorized YouTube channel for my original content. All these other channels, including Dr. Dave Janda 2, that's a fraud channel. That's a fraud channel. Anywhere where these presentations occur outside of this channel, they're stolen. Don't watch them. Watch them here. We're always here for you 24/7, Operation Freedom on YouTube. Today, what I want to focus on is the deep state and their puppets finally being held accountable on a number of fronts. I know there's this mantra out there that nothing's happening. I understand that. We don't have the people in orange jumpsuits and the handcuffs. Right, that has to happen. To reestablish the rule of law in our country, which has been stripped by the globalists over many decades' time, that needs to happen. But I truly believe it is in the works. And here's why I believe that. Is that wishful thinking? Is that hopium? I don't believe so. Look at what's happened in the past several weeks. And this is why I think 2019 is going to be a big year for freedom fighters and a really bad year for the globalist syndicate, the deep state players. On December 13th, 2018, there was the hearing that occurred with the House Oversight, Government, and Reform Committee. Now look, that was the committee hearing that was delayed for a little over a week because of the Bush HW globalist funeral extravaganza. Probably the best way to put it. It was initially set for the 5th. It was then pushed to the 13th. Now, what had been said before was there were going to be several people testifying at this hearing on the 5th and then moved to the 13th. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Tom Fitton does phenomenal work. Judicial Watch does phenomenal work. Tom Fitton testified on the 5th. But in addition, it came out that there were going to be some whistleblowers that were going to testify, and there was word that Huber, the prosecutor that Sessions had appointed from Utah, that supposedly has been overseeing a lot of these, that had been overseeing a number of these sealed indictments, was going to testify. Now remember, when Huber was appointed, he was given 2 directives. 2, that's it. 1, to look at how the email investigation was handled by the FBI and the Department of Justice about Hillary Clinton. And the second being how the Justice Department and the FBI were investigating the Russian collusion issue with the Trump campaign. Those were his only 2 directives. It did not involve Uranium One. It did not involve the Clinton Foundation. So when it was announced that this was going to be a hearing about the Clinton Foundation, my question I had was, well, what can Huber say about that? Because he's working on how the Department of Justice and FBI handled the emails on the Clinton investigation, on the Clinton email issue, and about the Russian-Trump collusion issue. So, and I believe that was, the fact that he was going to testify, I believe was disinformation. I believe it was meant to look at the shiny object, but the real prize were those whistleblowers, and we'll get to in a second. So I believe it was a diversion because let's face it, a lot of folks that have spoken out against the Clintons in public never made it to the public venue because something bad happened. That's not hyperbole, it's a fact. So, the day of the hearing, the 13th, Tom Fitton does a great job testifying about the issues, about the lying that occurred. And these two whistleblowers by the name of Moynihan and Doyle testified. And I watched it live. And the bought-off lamestream fake media does not want to discuss this because it was devastating. It was devastating for the deep state. It was devastating for the Clintons. Now remember, my sources from the very beginning have told me the Clinton Foundation is nothing but a front for at least one of our intelligence agencies, and it was a front for money laundering, potentially issues with drugs, and weapons. And what these two whistleblowers did is they connected all the dots. And I believe all this focus on Huber was to take the limelight off of them, to enable them to get out in front of the public at a congressional hearing and put the meat on the bones. They put more meat on the bones than Huber ever could have. Because remember, Huber is not looking at the Clinton Foundation. It came out in the hearing. And there was a number of bombs dropped, but there was one nuclear bomb. And the nuclear bomb dropped by both Moynihan and Doyle was the following: that there is an active, criminal, ongoing, open investigation of the Clinton Foundation being run through the Little Rock field office of the FBI. And when they dropped that bomb, Mark Meadows, who was the chairman of that committee, said, well, now it kind of, if you will, makes sense, adds up why the prosecutor, Huber, isn't here, because if there's an open, ongoing criminal investigation, it's best that a prosecutor involved in looking at some other issues not be involved, because whatever that prosecutor is looking at, well, if it would come to a trial, could get thrown out on a technicality that information that was supposed to be presented in a courtroom was being presented to the public, and Meadows said, now I get why Huber's not here. I believe the plan was always behind the curtain not to have Huber show up. But they put him out there as the shiny object. Look who's going to be here, to give Doyle and Moynihan free passage to get into that testimony, into that congressional hearing room. Now, here's what they testified about. And these are the points I took away that were critical. And these folks have tremendous amount of government experience. I believe Moynihan has experience with the Drug Enforcement Agency. Doyle has experience on Wall Street doing criminal investigations. Here's what they came to. And what these guys do is they're essentially bounty hunters. Okay, They go in and they look at government money that has been ripped off. And they get a cut of that, I believe, is how they make their dough. And here's what they came back with. Number one, the Clinton Foundation was acting as an unregistered, underline that, foreign agent. That the foundation had acted as a foreign agent, which it was not entitled to under their 501c3 status as given to them by the IRS. What Doyle and Moynihan stated is the Clinton Foundation was only granted a nonprofit status for its work in developing the Clinton Library. That was it. And all this Clinton Global Initiative and all the stuff they were doing in Haiti, around the world, and all these was not sanctioned by their nonprofit status. In other words, it was illegal for them to do this. And the fact that they were dealing with foreign governments and were unregistered foreign agents makes them subject to treason. This is what was presented that the fake media is not talking about. In addition, they spoke about misrepresentation and misallocation of funds, that the foundation did not comply with IRS regulations, that the IRS was involved with organizations and issues not approved by the IRS initial documents and regulations, and why they were initially granted the nonprofit status. They stated that a number of the transactions occurring with the Clinton Foundation, with foreign governments, while Hillary was Secretary of State, was based on pay-to-play agreements. In other words, pay us at the foundation a lot of money, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that, well, that your country gets more aid, your country gets more weapons. This is illegal, but that's what Doyle and Monahan presented. They also presented issues on misuse of funds at the foundation. Quote, the foundation did not use funds for charitable causes, end quote. That they're not a charitable organization, but in fact the Clinton Foundation is a closely held family partnership and is used to advance the agenda of family members, Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea. In addition, they pointed at the donors and they said the donors should have done their due diligence because it was obvious that if they read, and they were entitled to read the charter of the Clinton Foundation, of what they were based on being a charity for, the library. The fact that they were donating money to causes such as AIDS and Haiti and across the board, that they were not allocated for that. And supposedly they mentioned, or somebody mentioned, that Bill Gates was upset about this because he had donated a bunch of money. He said, wait a minute, you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. Supposedly there was a big fight between Gates and Clinton. But what Doyle and Monahan pointed out, all the donors that have taken tax deductions, those should be clawed back. And in fact, penalties should be applied to the donors for not doing their due diligence. In particular, they also pointed to their involvement at the Clinton Foundation with European countries. That European countries were in discussions with foundation senior officials, Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, and developed contracts with those countries that was far beyond anything approved by IRS guidelines. They stated that the administration costs of the Clinton Foundation were a minimum of 60%, when most charities have administration costs of 15% or less. They stated that, again, these pay-to-play donations were prevalent and pervasive in the Clinton Foundation. And in particular, when they were pushed, they said about these foreign countries, they said, well, let's just look at Mozambique. Mozambique had a relationship with the Clinton Foundation, an agreement. And essentially, the Clinton Foundation was a foreign agent for Mozambique, not registered. And in fact, the agreement between the Clinton Foundation and Mozambique was the foundation was actually brokering money transactions and brokering pharmaceuticals for companies and the government of Mozambique. Now remember that, and some of my friends in Canada pointed this out to me, that there was this recent murder-suicide that occurred of this drug company CEO. And he supposedly was supplying drugs to the Clinton Foundation for their work in Haiti. Well, it turns out the investigation shows it wasn't a murder-suicide of this couple, that in fact it appears that the wife was tortured and then killed in front of the husband, who was then murdered. Now, reportedly, the husband, who was the CEO, was getting very critical about what was happening with the Clinton Foundation and what he saw happening with his relationship with them, with the drugs and the like. Coincidence that those two are dead? This guy doesn't think so. In the hearing, Doyle and Monahan were asked, based on the facts, do you believe that there was probable cause of criminal wrongdoing with the Clinton Foundation? Both said yes.